See if I can tighten things up a little bit here. All right. That's better. Alrighty, this is Sports for Real. And on this gloomy post Saturday almost afternoon NFL wildcard game that took place last night, my Steelers, they got blown off the football last night. So as Bruce Lean comes on, he immediately says Pittsburgh couldn't stop the run. You are absolutely correct. And I'm stupefied by what I saw last night because I have been saying all along there are two ingredients to beating the Ravens. I still agree with that. But at the same time, Pittsburgh, they don't get run over by Baltimore. And last night, they kind of looked like the Oregon Ducks. They just going through the motions in the first half. And that's the first time I've seen them get steamrolled up front in many years. Yeah, I've been watching the Steelers for over 45 years. So I don't have a clue as to what happened to my boys yesterday. Now, I know you guys been lining up waiting to holler at me. Ricky Ricks, you got me. I'm coming here to take my punishment. Y'all put something on me last night. But then again, I don't know what the problem was with that team, man. They never looked so bad. Ravens and the Steelers are two sides of the same coin. And we got the formula to beat those guys. But for whatever reason, they didn't show up like they could win. But I'm taking my punishment, and I know you've been waiting to hear from me. So what's the question you really want to know? Do you still think Baltimore is that good? You think you're going to win the Super Bowl now because you beat a struggling, backpedaling Steelers team? I am not going to change my position about Baltimore. There's still a formula to stopping that team. Pittsburgh just didn't do it last night. But that doesn't mean you're going to be able to do the same thing that everybody else, against everybody else. So I can deal with it. But you know what? Even the sun shines on the dog's ass sometimes. And Baltimore got a whole lot of sunshine last night. So I wish you all the best. But we'll see you again. So don't get too excited about it because we are going to come back in a different fashion, in a different setup. And we'll be waiting to see the Ravens again. Bruce Lee says Justin Herbert had an embarrassing performance as well. I don't know if he had necessarily embarrassing performance. I think he got beat up at the line of scrimmage, and that one pick six he threw, that was just a little bit high. But it seemed like to me McConkey could have at least had a different effort to try to get that ball and knock it down. But then that second interception was off a tip pass. So I don't know. It's hard to say. But, you know, I wonder if some of these games are scripted. You know, take Baltimore last night. They take the ball and they go 98 yards. And then after the 98 yards, Pittsburgh can't do nothing. But then in the second half, they get the ball about the same distance. No, Baltimore went 95. Pittsburgh turned around and go 98. Looked like a completely different team that took the field. And I can't understand sometimes how that happens. All of a sudden you wake up and realize you're in a playoff game. What was there in the first half was there, should have been there also. So why all of a sudden you wait to make it, try to play in the second half? Now you give up the long run to Henry, and that made the difference in the game. But you were right there. You still had opportunity to compete to the end, but you guys chose not to do that. So are they observant of their playoff checks? I put a question mark on that. All right, let me catch up. Rick said a different year too. Yeah, we be waiting on you. Bruce said more interceptions in one game than they had all season versus Texas. Yeah, but you know the playoffs tend to give different game plans to teams that they hadn't seen all year. So if you think you're going to go in and do the same things you did through the regular season, then you're going to be surprised when somebody throws a curveball at you. And that's what Baltimore has been finding out over the last couple of years. Until they can get over that hump, I'm going to keep pointing it out. Monday nights, James Sawyer wins, Ravens. I don't know what that means, but I got whipped last night. Lean says he has no receiving help outside of McConkey. Sadly, Quentin Johnson so inconsistent. Disley couldn't. I wonder if Disley was afraid, or the bright lights were just too much for him. It just didn't. It didn't seem like Disley has been a better player than what he showed last night, and he didn't help his quarterback at all. But you're right, Quentin Johnson is inconsistent. Once he gets his mind made up, kind of like George Pickens, that he wants to play all game, every game, then he will make a difference. But the Chargers, nobody really expected much from them anyway. But I did pick them to win the game. I was quite surprised to see that game go the way that it did. But it all turned on the interception, and that can happen to anybody and anywhere. Mason says Steelers blew it again. Okay, you are correct. Now, I said there's going to be some fallout in Pittsburgh. What they're going to have to do if they're going to keep against this running team of Baltimore, that's the first thing they have to fix. How are we going to compete in the future against this team? They're going to have to beef up that front line, and they're going to have to get some more explosion on offense. We can run the football, but Pickens, he's got to be more consistent, and I got to get somebody else on the other side of him to spread things out. Freiermuth, I can deal with Freiermuth. You got to have a tight end down the middle that can catch the ball. Texans had a few turnovers as well, but they couldn't capitalize. I'm still not sold on the Texans. Anybody can win one game, just like the Ravens won one game. Now I'm hearing it because I've been talking so much trash about them, but I'm going to hold to my position. Rich, you say Ravens Nation. I'm still holding down the Steelers Nation, because what you guys are going to learn about me, if you listen to me, is that I expect to win. So when my teams win, I don't say anything. I talk the most trash when we lose. So yeah, the Ravens whipped me last night, but I can go have a beer and come back on Tuesday and play that team again and be a completely different result. But that's not the way it goes. You get one shot. We got whipped. We'll swallow it, but we'll be back. All right, that offensive pass interference on Pickens was rough. Yeah, but it was a good call. The way he did it, he didn't do it slick enough. He tried to. It was forceful, and it was obvious. They had to make that call. Now, he kind of did the same thing later on another deep pass, and he got away with that one. And he would have got away with it this first time had he done it as smooth as he did the second time. But just the way that half went, Pittsburgh, they just were in the wrong place last night, and you can just look around, and the body language, it just was not there. I'd like to have been a fly on the wall to hear what Tomlin had to say to him, because they came out like a completely different team. Which leads me to Tomlin. He is a good motivator, and I think that he's still a good coach. But I'm starting to wonder if they might need to make a change, not because he lost the game, it's just because, you be on the same team all the time, you hear the same kind of message all the time, it can get stale a little bit. So maybe they need to refresh it by either turning the team over or turning the coach over. I don't think that they're going to get rid of Tomlin, but it's something to consider. Rod Montgomery says Ravens are just better than the Steelers, but we will recover. Well, they were better last night. I give them credit for that, but I'm still not overly impressed. The same cracks I've been talking about, Jackson and his passing, that was there last night. They didn't throw the ball very much, but the thing is, when they put pressure on him in the second half, that one little pass he threw on the flat there, when they finally got some pressure on him, that wasn't very good. That wasn't an MVP type pass. Now, the other time, he scrambled around when he was about 15 yards deep and hit, what's his name, Justice Hill in the back, and he was open. That was just a scramble, and hey, he just popped up, and I could throw a little 5-yard pass to him. But in the books, it goes down as a touchdown, so it makes him look better than what he is. But I'm telling you, if you're going to beat the Ravens, there's a formula to stopping them. Pittsburgh surprised me when they seemed to try to take away both players at the same time. No, that's not the way to beat the Ravens. You got to take Henry away first between the tackles consistently. Then when Jackson come around that corner, you put a hat on his ass. Then he has to stand back there and throw it. And that's when you see that this kid here can't beat you with his arm. But if you throw a little 5-yard pass when nobody's around the receiver, it doesn't make a difference. If the Ravens are running the football, then it's going to be people wide open. And in the NFL, those wide open alleys that they've had lately, they should never be there. And I'm disappointed in what Pittsburgh did. All right. Ricky Rick said they need a quarterback, not a new coach. Okay, are you talking about Pittsburgh? So you think that Justin Fields should be the Steelers quarterback? He came on the field briefly doing some kind of timing thing that they had. Later on, it was revealed that he had a drone in the area, and when the drone comes around the field, they usually stop the play until the drone clears the area. I guess they don't want any kind of NFL visuals or footage except from what's coming through the TV screen to go out anywhere else. But I believe, Ricks, you asking me about, you saying they need a quarterback, not a new coach. I don't have a problem with Wilson. Wilson made some good throws. The problem with him, he don't have those young legs where he can escape. So if you have Justin Fields and he's close to production as Wilson, then you got to have those young legs in when it counts the most. And that is the same kind of argument that the people in Texas are making, because they had a 1st and goal against Ohio State, and they tried to get cute. And they didn't bring in Arch Manning because he's got the young legs that could have, he's faster than yours. And he could have made a difference on the goal line, because now you have to think about the running instead of just going directly at yours. And if you notice, the same way that Ewers did the first game against Georgia, when he got that pressure on him, he held the ball just a little bit too long, and then when he tried to throw it, he got hit, fumbled the ball, other team pick it up and run it back. The same thing happened with Jack Sawyer when he picked it up and ran there 80 yards for a touchdown. Backbreaker, man. But football is a game of inches. You got 1st and goal on the 1. You got to stick that thing up in there, at least try. He tried to run wide and try to do all kind of stupid stuff, all this modern era stuff, and it ended up costing Texas. And you're going to see it again, maybe in the championship game. Mason says, I believe in Tomlin, but they always seem to choke come playoff time. Lately they have. I think they lost, 6 straight? That's unstealer-like. And this is why I question how much longer is Tomlin going to be there, or how much time is he going to be given to try to turn this thing around. But if you know, they don't fire coaches in Pittsburgh. They usually go their own way. Chuck Noll, once he retired, then you got Bill Cowher replaced him. And then after Cowher left, and you got Tomlin. So they don't usually fire coaches in the NFL. And I think that's a good idea, because, with the talent flip-flopping the way it does in the NFL, anybody can turn their roster around in a 1 or 2 year period. So even if you have a bad year, if you don't lose the locker room, then I think you should stick with the same coach to see if he can iron it out. Rick says Lamar passing was off. Okay, is that a sarcastic question? What he threw, 3 passes? That one little out route he threw, he was nowhere close to the receiver. And the last pass he threw after that was that survival scramble, and he just happened to look up and see Justice Hill, and there he was 5 yards away, and Hill scored a touchdown. So if you think that's great passing, then that's not very good if you're asking me. Montgomery says, right, we still had opportunities. Montgomery, absolutely. I'm not too sold on Fields. I need to see more time on him from Luke Getsy, but I feel that Wilson isn't the answer either. Well, they turned their whole quarterback room over, and I don't know if they're going to do the same thing this year. With the trade situation with the Bears, that got finalized toward the end of the season. So I think that they're going to bring Fields or Wilson back, and they may trade to go get a young quarterback or draft one in the draft if a good one is available. But we'll see. Jazzy Jeff says, who are your picks to make it to the Super Bowl on the AFC and the NFC? Well, a lot of people are picking Buffalo. I'm not sold. I think the Chiefs still got 1 million lives. Eventually that rabbit's foot's going to fall out of their pocket. And I think the way it's going now, unless there's an upset, it's going to come down to Kansas City and Baltimore again. And it's going to be in Kansas City. And if it's going to come down to, can Henry get off? if Henry is able to run the football, then that opens the door for the Ravens to get there. But I think the Chiefs are going to come with a very similar game plan to what they had last year. They're going to stop that run between the tackle, and they're going to get that quarterback when he comes around that end. So it's going to come down to, can Jackson make some throws? And that's been a problem the last 5-6 years. If Jackson can stand in there and throw it downfield when he can't depend on the running game and he can't depend on his legs to get out of the pocket, and he has to throw the football, he's going to have to prove it. At some point, he's going to have to do it. He didn't have to do it last night, but at some point, he's going to have to stand in there and throw it this year, whether it's against Kansas City. And if they get to the Super Bowl, then Detroit is probably going to be there waiting on them. And I think Detroit is their time. I mean, they've had good teams over the years. They've had terrible teams for long periods of time. But the times that they had good teams, they always ran up against that champion. And you know, the only team that could play with a champion is another champion. If you're just a playoff team, you can't play with a champion. And that's what Detroit ran up into the last time they made it to the championship game. The Redskins, just too strong. That was a championship team. And I think Detroit now is a championship team. They've overcome all those injuries, and the defense has gotten better. They're getting Hutchinson's coming back. They got the other guy came back, Anzalone. Detroit's going to be a tough out. They can beat Minnesota. And who else is over there in the NFC? The Commanders, they can beat the Commanders. The Bucks. I think Detroit's coming out of the NFC, and they're going to play Kansas City or Baltimore, depending on what happens in that championship game. But I can't, in all honesty, count out Buffalo because you don't know what Buffalo is going to do. They've been very close, and I think in another close game with the Chiefs, they'll probably pull it out. So I really can't speculate overall, but I think Detroit's going to be there in the NFC. And let's just say one or three teams from the AFC is either Kansas City, Baltimore, or Buffalo. And we will come to that conclusion as we go round by round. Rick says, Wilson's not the answer. No, he's not. Fields may be, but probably not. I think Fields just needs time on the field. I got nothing against the Ravens, Ricks. I actually like the Ravens. But I'm telling you, you don't have the quarterback to stand in there and throw it when you have to throw it. And it's just like a boxing match. And you can stand and bounce around and stay on the outside, but eventually you got to come in to land some punches. It's the same thing as football. You got to run the football, and you got to have somebody to stand in there and throw it. The guy's not the most accurate passer in the world. When he's under pressure, it is a difference. I'm telling you, look at the tapes, look at the game. Take your purple glasses off and look at reality. This is football. Can they beat the Chiefs? Yeah, they can beat the Chiefs. Can they win the Super Bowl? Yes. Got nothing against the Ravens. But I think that he's going to have to stand in there and throw the ball. That's the only thing we hadn't seen him do. If he can stand in there and throw the football when it counts the most, there's nothing else I can say, or anybody else can say about it. Him and his game. He's trying to prove things wrong to people like myself. Got nothing against him. I just want to see him standing there and throw the football. I've already told you that Henry, he's already in the Hall of Fame, as far as I'm concerned. Just from all the carries he's had in all three different levels, he's got his Hall of Fame stamped on his forehead at birth. He's going. So the Chiefs are going to definitely focus on stopping Henry. They're going to look at that first game they played with him, make some adjustments from that, and it's going to be a nip and tuck game, and it's still going to come down to which quarterback can stand in there and throw it. Doesn't matter what year you look at in history, the quarterback has to stand in there and throw the football. Otherwise, you're not going to advance. But no, I don't have anything against the Ravens or any of their players. The Rams have been playing better now that they're healthy, but I don't think they can beat Detroit. And a lot of people are predicting that they will beat Minnesota. They got a good chance to beat Minnesota. I think that Sam Darnold, at some point, he's going to become Sam Darnold again. And that's going to be the Vikings' downfall. It didn't look very good at all last week against Detroit in a must-win game. They didn't get it done. Lean says, I think Lion goes also on the NFC side. Well, Lean, who you think is going on the AFC side, since you asked the question? It's some good football. That's what I'm interested in seeing. But switching gears to the college game, I thought that Texas would win it all. And when we saw Texas play Georgia those two times, I saw some cracks in Quinn Ewers that I didn't like. And those same cracks showed up in the game against Ohio State and ended up costing them the game. 21-14, first and goal on the one. I like my odds on that, especially the big up front team that Texas had. Why not go in our formation? We run the football. We don't care if you know it. We coming right between these tackles. You stop us. They didn't do that. They standing up in the shotgun and, the threat of the pass and all that. Ohio State seen the film on you on the goal line. They know what you're likely to do. So when you try to go wide, they were sitting there waiting on it. They knew that you fumble the ball when the pressure is on you. And, film study is key to football. If you don't know what the other team is doing, then you don't stand a chance. And I think Texas blew that. And now you got the Notre Dame, Ohio State. And it's kind of ironic or interesting that you have two northern teams playing for the championship. And you can't say, well, they ain't played nobody. Well, they did play somebody. And both teams beat an SEC team. So there's nothing else they could say about, who doesn't deserve to be in the playoffs, because your beloved SEC, who's supposed to be so much more dominant than everybody else, they got beat. Ohio State took out two of them. Notre Dame took out your champion. So there's nothing else the SEC folks can say, but they're going to have to sit there and watch it. But I guarantee you this, a lot of people in the South, they won't watch it because they don't know these two teams. And first thing you're going to say, even because they don't know them, they ain't played nobody. So when you hear somebody say they ain't played nobody, walk away from them, because those days are over when you pick two teams to go play for a championship. Now you got to earn it. And these two teams have definitely earned it. Bruce Ling says probably the Chiefs. I like to see the Ravens go, but it depends. I think Andy Reid will outcoach. Yeah, I don't know if Harbaugh is the greatest coach. I listened to him talk on those Hard Knocks films. You don't seem too moving. You got to have it in you if you really want to win. But I don't think, in Harbaugh's defense, I don't think that a head coach in the NFL should have to be rah-rah, because these guys are all getting paid. It's a profession to go out and play. So I shouldn't have to scream and yell at you to get you to be motivated to go out and do your job, especially when what you've been working for to win a championship is right in front of you. So, but yeah, Harbaugh is a good coach. And Andy Reid, though, he's going to come up with some kind of X and O package. I think for a team to beat the Chiefs, they're going to have to get after Mahomes, and they're going to have to turn that ball over. Chiefs, they don't do a whole lot of that. And that's why they won the championship, because when the game's on the line, they make the plays. And that's just the way. It's just going to be hard to beat them. And I think what you're saying about Reid probably out coaching teams, yeah, that's what's going on. But I've seen Reid get out coached too. He's not invincible. He just got it going right now. And we say these good things about him because his teams have won lately. But I've seen him get whipped, and I hear people say the same thing about him, that he couldn't get to the big game. All right. Bruce Ling says, I had Ohio State winning all. Texas hasn't been very impressive. No, they haven't been impressive in the playoffs, but I knew that they had the speed to play with Ohio State, and it definitely wasn't going to be a blowout. And Auburn had an awful season, especially in clutch situations. Thought it would be closer than it was. Oh, you talking about the game? It was a close game. It was 21-14. First and goal on the one. All you had to do was punch it in, and we got us a tie game. But Ewers, just like he did against Georgia, he fumbled the ball, and the guy picked it up and ran it back 90 yards for a touchdown. So score-wise, no, it wasn't close. But that was a very close game. Rick says Harb's not a coach, he just manages men. Exactly, that's all he ever has to do. He has never called a play for us. No head coach. Most head coaches don't be coordinators. But like I told you before, I'm up for a head coaching position myself. And if I get it, I'm going to run the offense. I got me a defensive coordinator already lined up. I got a special teams coordinator and strength conditioning coach and all that. So the only thing that I would do when I run my offense during the week, even though I would turn the defense coordinator to run the game plan, at the end of every practice, we're going to tweak and talk about what we saw and what we were having issues with lining up against the other team's formations during that week. So my point is, by the game time, I will know already what adjustments are going to be made ahead of time. We'll have it all lined up, what adjustments need to be made if this doesn't work, that doesn't work. It's already set up ahead of time, so all we got to do is make sure we make the right calls. So even though I wouldn't be the one making the call, I will have a lot of input during the week as to how things are set up. So I think Harbaugh, and if you saw that Hard Knocks video when they were doing the AFC North over those 5-6, he was sitting in the meeting with the defensive coordinator doing the same thing that I'm talking about doing. Yeah, the defensive coordinator is running it, but he's in on everything that's going on. And I think that's what a head coach has to do. He has to be attuned to everything that's going on in each different position on his team. And if they can do that, then that would make managing a game a whole lot easier. So all you got to do is like pull the right slot and you're good. All right, Jazzy Jeff says, I have Bills and Lions, even though it's hard for me to say that being a Packers fan, but I'm still believing in my Packers to make it, even though we probably won't make it. Well, they may not make the Super Bowl, but they are a threat to beat the Eagles. If you recall, these two teams opened up in Brazil to start the season. That was a good game until Love got hurt in the end, and then the Eagles managed to pull out of that. Well, as you know, the Packers, they tend to have good game plans for the playoffs, so this is going to be much more competitive than a lot of people think. And if the Eagles aren't careful, they're going to get knocked off. And as I heard it say by a lot of Eagles fans, if the Eagles do lose, Sirianni, he's going to be gone. I don't know if he will be, but I think the Eagles fans, they will want him gone. All right, but you got a great chance to get to the second round. I think the Bills and Lions would be a good matchup if they both can get there. Lean says, yeah, coordinators generally call plays, not the head coaches. Yeah, I felt like it come down to a field goal and Auburn ruined the game for Texas. I worry about Sarkisian sometimes. He come up with some puzzling play calls in the midst of all this brilliance. If he can ever iron it out and be even and not make any outlandish calls that just make you scratch your head, then they're going to be hard to beat. Take the game that they played in Michigan. That was a flawless game. They beat Michigan, dogged them out on their own field, and that wasn't even close. If Texas was executing like that with a game plan like that against Ohio State, they beat them by 2 touchdowns. As it stood, yeah, they had the troubles with the kickers and all, but it still came down to 1st and goal on the 1, and then he come up with these puzzling, head-scratching calls. Instead of lining up and running straight up the middle, because the straight line is the shortest distance between 2 points, right? Why go wide? Why try to get cute? You've been struggling. That team is a good team, and you know it. You can't beat around the bush like that. And they had enough speed to prevent you from going around that corner, and it ended up costing Texas. All right, Bruce Lean said all the Eagles need to do is force Jordan Love to throw the ball. Josh Jacobs carries the Packers a lot, in my opinion. Well, again, I've seen them with some good game plans in the playoffs. That one last year against the Cowboys was masterful, and the weather is going to be a little bit different, so they may not be able to explode on the Eagles like they did Dallas, but the threat is there. And then they pulled him out of the game last week because he hurt his hand, but it was his non-throwing hand. So how much is that going to affect him today? I don't think a whole lot. So I think the Eagles are on upset alert. So you Packers fans, rejoice because you got a great chance today. As you see with the Chargers yesterday, even though they were a road team, they were favored to win that game. Anybody can win when it's 0-0 and survival is on the line. It's either win or go home. And the team that comes in ready to play, unlike Pittsburgh, who didn't seem to be ready to play, if they had come in the first half and played like they did in the second half, then you have a different, maybe they wouldn't have won the game, but it certainly wouldn't have been no 2-touchdown difference. As a Commanders fan, I love the Eagles to get upset. I'm sure you would. That was a great comeback that you had last time to knock off the Eagles. and that kind of like got you into the playoffs. But I think you got a good shot against the Bucks. And like I say, it all depends on how your rookie quarterback plays, and he's been playing like the spotlight hasn't affected him a whole lot. So I expect him to play well today. Mayfield is probably what's going to be the difference. What does Mayfield do? But I think the Commanders, as they call them today, they always be Redskins to me. I hope you're not offended by that, but I grew up with the Redskins. They'll always be Redskins to me. So I think that it's going to come down to how well Baker Mayfield plays the game. But next week should be some interesting matchups. The Bills game determines where Baltimore goes. If Buffalo wins at the 2 seed, being Baltimore at the 3, they're going to have to go there. Unless, what was Pittsburgh? 5? Pittsburgh was 5. And the other game in the AFC, who was that? They're playing today. Hell, I can't remember who's playing today. But the other game, if there's an upset there, if Buffalo gets upset, then that would send Baltimore to Kansas City, I believe. All right. I hope Marshawn Lattimore is on top of his game and locks down Mike Evans. Well, I don't know if you can really lock down a receiver. You can put a receiver in motion and line him up all different kind of ways. You just got to be aware of where he goes. Case in point, that guy from Ohio State, Smith, he thought he was just uncoverable because he had a big game the first 2 playoff games. But I told you before the game started in a couple of videos that Texas had the speed to match up with Ohio State. Because if Texas don't have anything else going for them, they're going to always be able to run. And he found it out because he didn't do a whole lot. So you can slow a receiver down, but I don't think that's going to happen. Evans, he's going to make 5-6 catches, and he's going to get close to 100 yards, and he's probably going to score a touchdown. And if he does, then okay, well, I said that Buffalo was 2 seed, and they're playing against 7. So if the 7 seed upsets Buffalo today, the Broncos, that would send them to Kansas City. So you're right. But if Buffalo were to lose, then that puts Baltimore into a home game next week. Correct? Or am I wrong on that too? So right now, Kansas City is going to have 1 home game, and either Buffalo or Baltimore will host somebody next week. But you're right, you won't see Kansas City until the championship round. Kansas City is going to get, who's the 4th seed? Baltimore's 3. Houston will go to Kansas City. So I forgot about Houston. So as it looks like right now, if the seeds hold, I expect Buffalo to beat Denver today, and that will send Houston to Kansas City. And Baltimore will have to go to Buffalo. That's the most likely scenario. And I want to see in that game, that possible matchup, what kind of adjustments will Buffalo make? A lot of Ravens fans are going to get excited about that matchup because they think they're going to do what they did the first time. And second time around, games are never going the way they went the first time. The adjustments are going to be what makes a difference. You're right. If the Bills lose, we play the Texans in Baltimore. And then that would send Denver to Kansas City. Correct. You're right. But don't get excited about that because I think Texans are going to Kansas City because Buffalo is going to win that game. Are you hoping that Buffalo loses? Mr. Ricks, you think Buffalo is going to win that game, or would you rather see the Texans instead? Be interesting to see what you say to that. I like you fans. Most fans, not you in particular, I'm just saying a lot of fans, they want the easy road. They cry that they can beat everybody, but when that tough team gets in front of them, then they start getting nervous and antsy. So it'd be interesting to see who the Ravens fans really want to play. All right. I want Buffalo. Well, I think you're going to get Buffalo. So what changes do you think the Bills are going to make to be able to accommodate stopping that run? That's the game that Henry hit that long run for him and they got things going that night. I mean, he pretty much ran up, shut up the haters. Well, again, I'm not a hater, so I don't know if you're talking about me or not. My team is gone, so I got nothing else to say. So I got to go to the lab and get ready for next year. But we're going to be all right. But I think, I know what you're talking about. You're talking about that MVP race. Well, everybody was talking about Josh Allen being the MVP, and it would be a great matchup to see the two main candidates go at it next week. And I don't know when they're going to announce the MVP, but I think if they didn't announce it already, they're probably going to wait until after that game to see who's going to get the MVP award, even though I don't see how one player can make the difference in the game. It's not going to work that way. The Texans can play with anybody right now if they play like they played last night. Yeah, if they play like they played last night, but they're not going to play the Chargers every week. They struggled the first quarter and a half, and they got going when Herbert started making mistakes. And let's just say Herbert doesn't make mistakes, or they play Kansas City and they're not making mistakes, then what's Houston going to do then? All right? Turpin says, I want the best. Give us Buffalo. Okay, Ravens fan. I want to see what you're going to do when you get Buffalo. But don't get excited, because what you had in the first game may not necessarily be there the second time. So keep that in mind. I think they announced right before the Super Bowl. Well, good. That'll give us an answer if these two teams meet next week. I don't know about the Ravens fans, but people in Baltimore want to go through the Steelers, Bills, and Kansas City. Well, that's where it looks like it's going to be. So draw a line through the Steelers. We don't even want to talk about them no more. Texans really grabbed the momentum off a bot snap and Chargers not staying in coverage due to it. Exactly. That first quarter and a half, Texans couldn't do anything. Matter of fact, they asked Ryans at halftime, what you guys do to change the momentum? He said the C.J. Stroud got going. I don't know about that. I think the turnovers that the Chargers made, what made the difference in that game? What changes have the Bills made to give them an edge against us? I didn't say that they had the edge against you. I'm saying to you, as a football coach, you're not going to beat me the same way you beat me the first time. So if you're expecting, as a Ravens fans, to be able to pop these long runs and do exactly the same thing you did in the first game, it's going to be different. It's just like a street fight. You can have the greatest fight in the world, and these guys aren't trained. But if they fight again the next day, it's going to be a different fight. Because as natural defense mechanisms, you're not going to approach that fight the same way. I can't stay on the outside and get killed with a jab. I got to get inside. So you whip me with the jab the first time, okay, I'm going to get inside. You might catch me once or twice going in, but I'm going to deliver some punishment inside that I didn't deliver before. And now you got adversity because you got to adjust to my inside punches. It's the same thing with football. These games never go the way they went the first time. I don't care what sport that we're talking about. What's going on, Bristol? How you doing, man? Appreciate you chiming in. But yeah, styles make fights, and Buffalo, they're not going to be dumb enough to come in and try to play Baltimore the way they did the first time. And just like I said before, that teams have different game plans and approaches for the playoffs than they do the regular season. And if they're savvy enough, think like I do, I've been putting together my game plan against Baltimore from week one. And I adjust it every week just in case I run into that team or any other team in the playoffs. I got a game plan for everybody I want to play. All right. You beat Pittsburgh the same way twice? No. The last time you played, you got a fumble, Russell Wilson fumble going in inside the 10-yard line, at the 5 to be exact, and he threw a pick six. That was the difference in that game. Yeah, you were able to run the football, but Henry didn't have no 200 yards against the Steelers, man. He had a good game, but he wouldn't have 200 yards. But you can't you can't come in with the same way. Now, if you just heads and shoulders better than the team, then yeah, you can get away with a lot of the same stuff because there's nothing the other team can do about it. You know, it's just like a 13-year-old kid beating up on a 5-year-old kid. There's not much he can do about it. But, you know, wait for the day that he can get some get back. But an 8-year difference, now is not the time. If Derrick Henry carries 20 times, we are undefeated. You mean that's your speculation? Or if he carries 20 times all year, when he carried 20 times in each game all year, they won? Well, I know when you've had those big monstrous games, I don't think they have lost. But like I said, you can't depend on that. Now, if he goes through the playoffs, 150, close to 200 yards every time, then you're going to win the Super Bowl. And then the MVP should go to Henry, not Jackson or Allen. That's your true MVP. But I don't know how he's doing it. He's on some kind of diet he has. I don't think he eats meat anymore. But it's made a difference. Kind of like what Kobe Bryant was doing. You know, you get different energy levels. And he's, 31 now? And he's running like he's 24, 25, you know. And I think he can play 3-4 more years at the rate he's going. But I do see him when he does those breakaway runs, he's like gritting his teeth. I don't know if he's trying extra hard to get there or if he's struggling doing these long runs. That's something you have to ask him. All right, we are 4-5 if Henry gets less than 20 carries. 9-0 with 20 carries or more. Hey, those are all great stats. But, you know, I don't know why they haven't used him as much in those other games. But I think what they were doing was trying to preserve him for the playoffs. And like I said, if he's able to continue to run the ball the way he did last night, then Baltimore is going to be hard to beat, despite what Jackson does. So we'll see. But yeah, Henry's a good back. Always been a good back. I told you that the first year I was coaching high school, I'm up here in Jacksonville area. They were actually in our district. So as a sophomore, I got a chance to go up against that nightmare. And I don't know if you know about his high school prowess. He ended up with like 12,000 yards overall, but his senior year has got like over 4,000 yards. You know, sometimes these coaches, they go overboard with these players and they overuse them. And I think he was definitely overused in high school. But if he had come along when I was playing, no coach would ever give a back that many carries. Secondly, he might not even been in the backfield at all because back then they had you typecast in certain positions, and he was destined to probably be a tight end or maybe a receiver. But running back, you had to have the right coach for that. And by the time, I'm thankful for him that he came through and had a coach that would allow him to run the football instead of putting him in some position he didn't want to play. But that was very common during the days that I played. But the game that we played against him, he was a sophomore. He put 367 on us. It was one of those kind of things where they give him the ball. If they ran 50 plays in the game, he got it 35. And you know who was getting the ball. It's just he was so much bigger. And as the game went on, nobody really wants to try to tackle him. And we kind of we don't feel so bad about giving up 367 because I've seen him do that in college. And I've seen him have great games in the pros. He run over them too. So there's nothing for us to feel bad about. But yeah, he's been a terror on all three levels. And it's not surprising that he's doing well because if you give the man the football, then you give him the football, he's going to give you some results. He had 502 and 6 touches in one game. That's a bit much. He had 500 yards in several games. Like I say, I've been following his career. But the first time I seen him run the football, we were playing against the team that they played against the week before. We were game planning for that team. And the first play I seen him run was a outside sweep, and it took that for about 70 yards for the touchdown. And when you're looking at film, sometimes it can be, man, is he really moving that fast, or is the other team, is he playing against somebody that's worthy? You know, you just don't know. And I didn't know, but I was skeptical. But as I started watching him, and after I started watching, I followed him. And, you know, he hadn't changed a whole lot. He's gotten bigger, he's gotten faster, and it's still hard to tackle. So my only question about him, or worry or concern that I got for him, is he going to be like Sean Alexander? You know, woke up one morning and he just couldn't do it no more. And you didn't see it coming, he just couldn't do it no more. He's had enough carries to qualify for that, so he could wake up today and can't do it no more. So I don't wish that on him, but that's what happens to running backs. And he's had way more than enough carries to qualify for a situation like a Sean Alexander. Just can't do it no more. But that's here nor there. It's going to be some great games today. Denver is going to make it more competitive in Buffalo than people think. I think the Bills have a 9-point. They're favored by 9.5. I think the Broncos will cover that, but I think the Bills are going to win this game, and they're going to expect to see Baltimore come in next week. I think Green Bay has an opportunity to beat Philadelphia and Tampa. That's going to be a good game with the Commanders. I really like to see the Commanders win that game, being that they had been in the playoffs in a long time, and that would be nice to see them win a game. Alexander was a beast, but he just woke up one day and he just couldn't do it no more. You know, the year before, he still running that thing, and all of a sudden, bam, he couldn't do it no more. Sean Alexander was a beast. I think the Broncos cover as well. I don't know about you guys. I try those parlays every now and then. It's always a one-liner that kills me. Last week, the guy from Jacksonville, Thomas, needed to score for me to win a parlay. They threw the ball to a guy in this area. He fumbles the ball. It goes in the end zone. Thomas is right next to the guy, and they're fighting for the ball. If he gets the ball in the end zone, it's a touchdown. I win. But that's the closest I ever got to hitting a parlay. So I'm not really a big gambler. I just might do something every now and then just to see what I can do. But I'd rather just pick whoever wins and who loses, and all that point stuff. It never works out in my favor. So, but I think the Broncos will be less than, they will cover today. And should be some good football. Looking forward to it. And I hope you guys, what about the NFC? Well, we talked about that earlier, Turpy. I think Detroit's going to end up, that sport's been kind of rough, man. But I think Detroit is going to go to the Super Bowl. I don't see nobody beating Detroit over there. All the wheels on the bus have to fall out for them to lose. I won one last night, Ladd McConkey and Derrick Henry touchdown. You know, I saw that. I had that. And, but you got to watch those parlays because they get slick on you. They'll stick a player in there that's injured. Like that guy, J.K. Dobbins. He hadn't played. And another guy today, what's his name? McLaughlin. He's on the injury report. He's not playing. But they'll stick those in those parlays. So if you don't do your research, you're going to lose your money, man. I won one last night. Okay, I read that. Yeah, it was one on there I saw where Henry had 2 touchdowns. I thought he scored 1. I wouldn't think he scored 2. And I didn't think that Jackson would throw 2 touchdowns, but he got credit for 2 touchdowns. So you never know about these games, man. But I think that the betting has too much influence on these games. They try to keep all that stuff out and all the other outside influences. They wanted that out of the game. But when you got betting at every single turn that you make at these stadiums, now you got it on your phones where you can bet anywhere. Come on, man. I think betting has too much influence, man. They usually reward if you end up. No. That's not what I saw. I mean, if the guy, Dobbins, he didn't play, they counted that. Because I think I played that. And but if they played one snap, the bet is ruined. Yeah, you're right. But I hope that's the case because I might have a shot if that's the case. But I'm not going to get too deep into that because that's not my thing. That's just something that people do for fun. But people that do it for fun might lose $1 or $2 here or there, but it still adds up, and those people are making millions. But I think that gambling has become too pervasive in these sporting activities. And only thing is, though, it's hard to influence the players now because that was their concern, that somebody would get to the players to try to throw a game. But if he's making millions, you're going to have to pay that guy much more than that to get him to do that. So I don't think it's gonna happen. We've always gotten voided if the player doesn't play a single snap. Well, that would be nice. But like I said, I got to research that. But again, you can just tell them about what I'm saying about it. I'm not that that big of a gambler. If I want to play anything, I want to play a little pick threes and fours, and maybe I get a few dollars that way. But that's about the extent of me playing. So it's better to take straight bets. The odds are usually too bad to take straights unless you want to put up a lot of money. That's how they get you. Okay, let me read that again. Okay, the odds are usually too bad to take straights unless you want. Well, I can believe that. But like I say, I'll do a little bit more research on that before I get a little deeper into that. But just to recap, I got to get going here. I'll come back on later on. But I had to come face the music. I told you guys that Pittsburgh was going to whip Baltimore. I got whipped last night, so I guess you guys thought I was going to skip around that. But I put that in the title, and that's the first thing I said. I expected more of my Steelers. I'm not making any excuses for them, but they came in. They looked like they were sleepwalking their first half, almost like they just expected to lose, or they didn't want to be there, or whatever the reason. And that's the first time I've seen Pittsburgh look like that in a long time. And give Baltimore their credit. They beaten us before in the playoffs. We beaten them again, but we'll be back. And all of you calling the Steelers sorry and Russell Wilson and all that, what a guy like Russell Wilson and the rest of them, they're going to do, they're going to listen to what you're saying. Then they're going to log on to their online banking account. They're going to look at them big zeros in there. They're going to log out, and they're going to walk away without saying a word. Because at the end of the day, it all comes down to, can you feed your family? And even if a team gets beat 38-0 in the first round of the playoffs, they've already got their salary for the year, and they're going to get a playoff check on Tuesday, and they're going to go from there. So did they really lose, or is it the fans that really lose? Because just like in college football, I wonder sometimes if the players give a damn at all. I never saw Pittsburgh look like that against us. Yeah, man, it's rough, man, but, good sport, bro. True fan and much respect. I appreciate the turkey. I wish you guys good luck, but I'm going to be back on your case next week and telling you how Buffalo can beat you. And I'm also going to say how Baltimore can beat Buffalo. So I'm going to try to be balanced and fair. And again, I don't have anything against the Ravens. You whipped me last night. I got to take it on the chin. Well, we're going to be all right. But anyway, I got to get up and run. Unfortunately, I got an uncle. They put him in the hospital, so I got to go see him before it's too late. So, but anyway, hope you guys like and subscribe. I'll be back on, and we talk a little bit more football. Maybe we can do some simulcast later on during one of the later games. But that would be great. But anytime, Mr. Ricks, Turpy, Bruce Lean, all you guys, I appreciate you chiming in. I'll catch you guys on the other side. Until then, I'm out. This is Sports for Real. Appreciate it, Lean.